Well, greetings, people. It's Got That Funk, and this is going to be a pretty hard video for me to make. Chances are it's going to be pretty long. It might be pretty hard for you to watch as well. And it's going to be pretty personal, so if that's not your deal, it's cool, no problem. I'll try and be entertaining again soon. But in the meantime, I wanted to talk about this. I thought very hard about not talking about it, but I think I need to talk about it for various reasons, which will probably become apparent as I talk. Anyway, yeah, I've recently had something of an emotional boulder hurled at me. And very often on my channel, I have people asking me, how is it I maintain a positive mental attitude? And I kind of shrug about that on one level because most day-to-day bullshit that we have to deal with in life is annoying, but it doesn't really encumber me much. But there are emotional things that do. You can't get to be my age without having a few chains that you drag around, and you'll never get rid of them. They're there. No one has the key. That's the way it is. Anyway, so yeah. Now, one of my very, very closest associates here on YouTube, I consider her a friend. She doesn't make videos very often anymore, and whenever she does, it's a joy. But she and I have a lot of respect for each other and regard for each other. And about a year and a half ago, we had a conversation, not in video, but we had a conversation and about how sometimes it's appropriate to be really upset and get really angry. If something makes you angry, you should be free to express your anger in an angry way, and I totally agree with that. And I think the same thing about sadness. If you're feeling anguish or a lot of pain, it's perfectly okay to cry. um, but I fucking hate crying, and even more than that, I hate losing my temper. I can count on probably two hands, but probably one hand, how many times I've truly lost my temper. I don't know if I ever have actually lost my temper in the way that I've seen other people lose their temper, where you see red and there's actually no thinking person left. I mean, I've never gone there, but I'm digressing. Anyway, so yeah, I've recently had this emotional boulder hurled at me, okay? And uh, when people ask me how do I maintain a positive attitude, and I say, well, it's about an approach to life. And like I say, you can approach the mundane everyday bullshit and conquer that without very much difficulty, but it's when the heavy shit comes at you that you really have the challenge. And with what I'm dealing with right now, it's pretty much a boulder that's been hurled in my direction, and I have a choice. And it might not seem like I've got a choice, but I do have a choice. um, I can choose. It's a fight or flight response. I can choose to fight, or I can choose to fly. And in the instance of this metaphor, uh, the choice to fly would mean staying too long and getting crushed by the boulder. So the only real choice to be made is to fight, and the only way to fight is to assume superpowers and stand there firmer than the boulder, and when it hits, let it be the thing that breaks. Now that all sounds very fine and dandy, I'm sure, and like a bunch of bullshit so far. But I want to help anybody who this can help, because it's helping me realizing, it's very good to have a certain set of beliefs that you trump and you think are great, but very often, more often than not, you're not called to live by them, and then something like this happens, and you realize you are who you think you are, and it's actually a validating experience. And in that from that, I've drawn a lot of strength. Okay, here we go. About a week ago, I got a DVD in the post from my dad's widow. I'm talking about my natural father who died on the 8th of April. Okay, I've got two dads, stepdad and my natural father. And I went to see my natural father in February because we knew he didn't have much time left, and it was the last time I ever saw him. And let him know I loved him, and he knew, let me know he loved me, and all that kind of thing. And as far as I knew, there was no animosity or anything like that, and it was all fine. But I got in the post. I got his DVD of his obituary that he made. He put it together. And as someone who makes videos myself, I'm perfectly well aware of the amount of effort that went into making that video. It's an absolutely beautiful DVD, and it talks about his life from the time he was born, the schools he went to, when he joined the Air Force, where he was stationed. It talks about the famous people he met in the '60s and uh, various different careers that he had and the achievements that he had, the things that he did, his hobbies. There's a whole bunch in there about his wife. Um, and my sister is mentioned, and his stepson is mentioned, but there's nothing about me at all. My dad went to great trouble to make this video, and it was his direct intention that I would see it, among other people, yes, but you know, I was one of the intended audience for this DVD. And when I first found out, I spent about an hour just in a state of dumbfoundedness. I was completely stunned. I was just like, wow, Dad must have been pretty fucking angry at me to do that. And I didn't have a clue that he was that angry while he was alive. It's not just anger, though. There's a lot of pain. To do something like that, to want to make someone else hurt, which is clearly his intention, was to hurt me. Um, to want to make someone else hurt betrays a certain amount of pain that you're going through yourself. That does not justify it, but it does explain it. And to a large degree, anyway. And so I went through a whole bunch of stuff, and I want to take you guys in and bring you into my process here to let you know why this hasn't fucked me up as much as I first thought it was going to. I spent about 4 days in a state of sort of what? You know, I was just like, I made that body autonomy video, and I really wasn't present in my brain. I was just thinking, Dad left me out of his DVD, man, just over and over and over again. It just like he left me out of the DVD. And the funny thing is, on Monday morning, I think it was Monday, it might have been Tuesday morning, but yeah, the other day I had a bit of a realization. You see, I never held it against my dad that he wasn't there for me when I was growing up. I never held it against my dad that we didn't have such a great, close relationship as adults. I didn't hold it against him. I wasn't angry about it. And, if I'm not going to be angry about him including me in his actual life, um, why should I not be angry about him why should I be angry about him not including me in the DVD? It's a fucking DVD, you know? And it's just, our real lives are the actual more important part. And the, so, I had the natural feelings that you guys are probably all thinking that, I should have had. I went through I knew I should be angry at my dad for what he did, but I never actually felt angry about it. I knew I should be, bawling about it. And I got choked up, sure. Over and over again, I got choked up. I'm just like, Dad left me out of his DVD, man. How badly must he have been hurting to do that? And how come he never fucking expressed it to me? We're men. The whole time we got to know each other as men. I never knew him growing up. So, we've always been perfectly candid with each other when he was alive, and or so I thought, you know. And anyway, so yeah, I went through the you know, back in the days when I used to do meditation, one of the things you learn how to do in meditation is when you have a welling up of emotion, you can actually see the source from whence it originates if you're paying attention to yourself, if you're watching. And when the DVD, I watched it with my kids, my daughter and my son. My daughter was down visiting, and when the DVD ended, I turned to my daughter and I said, "Well, that was an amazing video. It was beautiful to watch, and a joy for the most part, but ow." You know, and she said, "Are you okay, Dad?" And you should have seen the look on her face. I don't think I've ever seen her so concerned about me. And I'm like, "Yeah, kind of, you know. I'm really surprised not to have been in that, you know." And so that was my initial response. You know, I wasn't angry initially or really even sad initially. I was so gobsmacked. My sister's in it, and his stepson is in it. His pets are in it. His godchildren are in it. Um, his motorcycles are in it. Long, long stretch about his motorcycles. My dad was quite a craftsman and rebuilt cars and motorcycles as a hobby. And there's quite a lot of attention and stuff like that in the DVD. My sister's mad at my dad for the DVD, and I won't really talk about that too much other than to say that she really felt that it wasn't really made for the benefit of the family. It was made to impress his friends. And that she actually felt, even though she knows that she has no right to feel excluded because I was excluded, she feels that her part in his life merited more than what was basically a footnote in the DVD. So, you know, I don't really think that enough attention was really. My dad probably thought that Kelly should feel special because she was in it and I wasn't. That's just his mentality, you know. Anyway, so yeah, I realized that I've never held it against my dad that we didn't really know each other very well because I know that 50% of that is my fucking fault. And obviously, he blamed me a lot more for that than I realized. Now, um, there's nothing that can be done about it. There's no point being angry at the dead. Um, you know, I can't be angry at his widow. She didn't have anything to do with it. Um, I can't be angry at him, even really. I wasn't angry at him for the lack of contact. I was just as bad as he was, you know. Um, when I was when I was on the radio, we started to get to know each other a little bit. And however, even though we had been in contact every couple of months, when he first got cancer back in 1986, I think, he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me he had cancer until he had licked it. And then he told me. He told me that he had kicked his cancer. And I'm like, what cancer? You know? um, and then I came out to see him shortly after that. That would be 1989 for my 27th birthday. And we had a great weekend together. And it was during that visit that I sort of told him that I never held it against him, that I didn't hear from him when I was growing up. And the reason I didn't hold it against him was because it was, in my opinion, at the time when I was growing up anyway, I blamed my stepdad and my mom because they completely disallowed me from having any contact, even Christmas and birthday cards. You know, so as far as I was concerned, it wasn't my natural father's fault. And therefore, I never held it against him. And when I grew up, even though after I had kids, it was a bit more like, wow, he just like completely vanished for 20 years. You know, but at the same time, you know, back in the 60s, that's how things were done, and it was. And also, you know, because that's how things were done, I can understand mentally trying to make the clean break for a while and just mentally just trying to, you know, trying to forget about it. I can understand it. I can't understand actually succeeding at it though. But anyway, when I grew up, you know, we tried to make some kind of a relationship, and um, from the time I married my first missus, which was in late '89, um, I was in contact with my dad quite a bit, but when she left me for another guy and I became a single parent, and my dad thought I should move back to America. And I'm like, no, I can't do that to my kids. And I explained to him that, I grew up and I didn't know him, and I'm certainly not going to do that to my kids with their mother. I'm not going to take my kids away from their mother. Um, that would be making exactly the same mistakes. So I couldn't do that. And, you know, as I say, I watched the DVD with my kids, and all my life, from the age of about 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be a father, you see. And I became a single parent when my kids were 2 and 3 years old. And from as far back as they can remember, all I've ever said to them was how much they mean to me and how much I've wanted to be a father. And that's the most important thing in my life, is being a father. And they've heard it literally probably hundreds and hundreds of times, maybe thousands. And yeah, um, after we watched the DVD and we talked a little bit, and they were satisfied that I wasn't about to burst into tears, I said, "You guys understand now?" And Asha says, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, your whole life I've been telling you how much being a dad means to me. Now do you get it?" I said, "I failed with my father." And my kids, I've never seen the expression on their faces that I saw Friday afternoon after we watched that DVD together. Now, it kicked my ass for about 3 or 4 days. I think 4 days I really wasn't fully mentally present. Thank goodness I had 2 of those days off of work and stuff. But I did go through these phases of wanting to be angry at him, but I couldn't be, because I didn't do my part. My dad had cancer since 1986, and I didn't keep in contact with him anywhere near as much as I probably should have, obviously, if he felt the way he felt. Um, Now, I foresee people in the comment section saying things along the lines of, I could never do that to my children, and he's a really horrible father, and blah blah blah. Don't even go there as far as the horrible father crap is concerned. I mean, yeah, it was a horrible thing to do, for sure. It was a shitty, spiteful, vindictive thing to do, and you know, if I've never done anything shitty or spiteful or vindictive, maybe I'd feel entitled to criticize it more, but I'd rather understand it. I'd rather try to figure out why my dad thought it was okay to do that, for a start. Um, you know, uh, and also accept my 50% of the blame for his feelings. I'm not going to accept 51%, or not even 50.1%. And you guys might think that I don't even deserve to accept 50%, but I think 50% is um, fair enough. It's fine. And that being so, if I'm going to forgive myself, which is necessary in order to carry on living, I therefore have to be prepared to forgive my dad, because we're equally culpable. Rather than be hurt about it or be angry about it, I'm going to stand in the way of the boulder and let it break around me and say no. If my dad's intention was to hurt me, he shocked me, and it hurt for a little while, and it's going to hurt for a while longer. Don't get me wrong, I'm not through this process by a long way, but I've come to a pretty good place. Anyway, it's actually starting to drizzle, and I shouldn't have my laptop out here like this, so I better go. It's Got That Funk. Thanks for watching this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And may all your ups and downs be ups.